Thanks for tuning in live to Hulkenberg Central, Proline TV. And yes, even though there's no F1 coverage for the next several weeks, we had to start our motorsports show talking about F1. Why not? Because that was the craziest thing that I think I might have ever seen for somebody who didn't win a race or didn't win anything except third place.
Longest streak of Formula One starts without a podium finish, broken in the rain at Silverstone. Good job, Nico Hulkenberg and Sauber, to get the Lego trophy.
If you didn't know any better, you would have saw this and been, wow, what did he win?
It's a Lego trophy.
He won a Lego trophy. Oh, wow. What did he win? No, he didn't win. He won a trophy, but he didn't win anything.
Everybody would be
third.
Everyone would be that excited to get a Lego trophy.
This is what it. See, I like this one here. This is me.
Yeah.
All right. This is America, actually, about Hulkenberg coming in third. And then this is everything else. Look at all these memes and how great. Look at this. She's crying.
Shocking tears of joy, exuberation.
I mean, I honestly, serious. I mean, come on. And I know you understand these people more than I do, because you've been around this sport. I mean, the most I've really been around the sport, besides doing it with you, of course, the last couple of years and trying to follow it, is watching the movie Rush. So, you know what? I was watching it the other day too, and I noticed they had a when they tell you what other movies are similar, and I noticed a documentary, and I said, "Oh, that looks pretty cool." I never saw that documentary regarding the season. I guess they're going to have real interviews with the people who were there that year. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that. But besides that, that's it. That's the extent of me and F1. I'm not going to go see the movie. I'll wait for it to come on Amazon Prime, probably. Even though they have had some decent reviews for the movie, but nowadays, I think we have a sliding scale when it comes to reviewing movies. Like, if they don't really suck, then people think that means it's really good nowadays. So I don't trust people when they review movies nowadays. But yeah, anyway, wow.
My favorite so far, you've scrolled past it just a little bit further down, is the two McLarens parked next to Nico Hulkenberg's tractor in Park Fermé. That's about accurate. His best finish up this season in the Sauber car up until Sunday was 5th place that he got in Spain. The rest of them were just basically top 10s. So good for him. And I hear that they Sauber only had 2 bottles of champagne in the garage with them in England at Silverstone. So Aston Martin and I think McLaren donated kindly enough some bottles of champagne to take down there so that they could all celebrate.
I mean, the celebration itself was just incredible. I mean, watching everybody, right after right after he finishes third, and seeing everybody just, it was, I've never seen a celebration like that before in my life, a third place. Never. Not even second place. Never.
A lot of money attached with those points in Formula One.
So, all right. So try and give Americans an understanding of exactly what give me something similar.
I don't know if America has anything similar, because I can't think of a sport where 1 or 2 teams are just so insanely dominant that best of the rest becomes effectively winning. There just isn't anything like that. There's a huge amount of parity in the NFL. There's less so in baseball, but you still don't have 2 that just completely dominate for a decade at a time, and that's what you have in Formula One. And The constructors championship is, we talk about it all the time. That's the most important thing for these teams. And it's all about how the combined efforts of the two drivers throughout the season go in terms of points that they're able to score, and the ranking against the other teams. And that's where all the money comes from for them to be able to fund their development for the next cars, continue operating, expand their facilities, hire better people, et cetera, et cetera. So a podium finish is a really big deal, especially for a team that would be celebrating otherwise. They would have celebrated not this much, but they would have been celebrating quite a bit for that 5th place finish in Spain that I mentioned as well. So to finish actually on the podium, get the trophy, the points that come along with it, obviously more important, that are going to help them in the Constructors Championship by a long margin, move them up several places. That's going to be worth tens of millions of dollars to them. So it's a pretty big deal for a team, with what is it, 150 to 300, 500 some employees, thereabouts.
What would the odds have been for him to finish on the podium?
Oh gosh. He probably would have been in the hundreds.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So he would have actually been like one of the farthest back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Not the farthest, but he definitely would have been, bottom 5 or 6 for sure.
Okay, so while we're talking F1, because we're not going to be talking about it much here over the next few weeks, just quickly, the championship odds. We're going to get to the NASCAR championship odds for the Cup Series in just a minute, but you got Piastri with a slight lead over Norris. Max is now 18-1. So my question then is, what would Max Verstappen need to do to win the championship?
He's got to win out effectively. So right now, the battle is between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. They're 1 and 2. They're separated by just 8 points. And Piastri's got 234. Verstappen's got 165. That's a deficit of 69 points. You're talking, let's see how many races are left in the season here. And then you have sprint races too, but I won't count those. Those are half points. So just if we're trying to do rough math, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
There are a lot of races left.
And I'm counting 12. Yeah, 12. And then let's see here.
What else do you have to count?
You're going to have sprint races in there, so there are a handful of points that you can grab out of those. But really, you're looking at, let's see here.
So right now we're headed into the Belgium Grand Prix, which is July 27th. Here's the rest of the races. These aren't any sprint races, though. So there's 12 more races left.
So maximum of 25 points for winning a race.
Okay.
There are 12
races. So let's say he wins. Let's give me something realistic. He ain't winning them all. So give me something realistic.
Well,
give me something where
he's won 1 race so far this season, right?
Well, I'm just saying, if he's going to win,
I'm sorry,
can we say 9 or 8?
He's won 2.
Or forget it. If it wins 9 or 8, there's no chance. Let's not even bother. Could we say that? Could we start with that? How about we start with 9?
So 225 points he would get if he won 9 races.
Okay.
Let's assume Piastri wins the other 3.
Just Piastri?
Yep, that's 75. Plus, assume he finishes second for 9 times 18 points. That's 63 points that Max would gain. And as I said, Max is currently 69 points behind. So if you took 9/12, Max won all of them. McLaren puts all their eggs in the Piastri bucket and says, this is our guy because he's leading the championship.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Right. You're only going to make up that, you're not going to make up the 69 points that Max is currently behind. You're only going to make up the 63. So you're still going to have to find 6 points somewhere else. Maybe.
And how many points can you make up on sprint?
They're half points. So,
okay.
Yeah. So like 12 points to 9 would be the gap there. So maybe if wins 2 sprint races in addition to 9 of the 12, that's about the only scenario. And then even then, you're probably talking about a 1-point race difference going into the finale.
And is he in a situation? Okay, so I guess the best chance he would have is obviously he'd have to win all these races. But the other thing is he would need the Lando. If anyone else is going to, let's say he wins 3 straight, he'll need Lando to win that 4th one.
Correct.
And then he wins another 3, say, or 4.
Yep.
And then it comes a little bit more interesting because Norris is only how much behind Piastri?
Norris is only 8 points behind. So it's still a dead heat between the 2 McLaren.
Yeah.
They've got the best car. Obviously, the points show it. Norris ended up winning in Silverstone, as I predicted. Not tooting my own horn because it's only a 50-50 shot between the 2 drivers. But Piastri made a mistake under the safety car. He did the braking thing that we talked about the week before at Canada between Verstappen and Russell. Piastri did it to more of an extreme according to the stewards. So he ended up getting a 10-second penalty and kind of messed up getting a greater advantage over Norris. So Norris cut the lead of Piastri by 7 points as a result of that. But yeah, effectively for Verstappen to have any kind of chance, first of all, he's got to start winning some races and win a lot of them, 9 out of the 12, as we said, and then also keep hoping that Norris wins some of those versus Piastri.
Yeah, and the reason I even bring this up is just because of the fact that, look, it would be a lot better if Max was a lot closer, but I'm only bringing it up because of we have seen some of these mistakes by these drivers, these McLaren drivers, lately that is not affecting them, but they're making them, which you wonder, since they've never won a championship before, how will they be handling the pressure, especially if Max starts winning races?
Well, how are they going to be handling the pressure, even if it's when it just comes down between the 2 of them? Like you said, neither one of these guys have won a championship before. Piastri is just winning his first races this year. So how are they going to react with the championship on the line and it's your teammates that's sitting next to you on the front row going into turn 1? How do you handle that?
Yeah.
It's going to be new for both of them. And then if Max Verstappen certainly gets up there, then they've got a whole new scope of worries to keep in mind. But realistically, it's down to Piastri and Norris at this point.
Yeah, because I mean, look at Piastri. He's only won 1 race in 5.
Yep.
So he's already starting to show some signs.
Yep.
Okay. And before we wrap it up, any chance that he can with the schedule? Any chance that he's going to any tracks that will be a big advantage to Max?
That's a really good question. They were really strong in a straight line last week at Silverstone. So if they can figure things out, I think Italy, when they go to Monza, maybe the Red Bull can compete a little bit there. That's going to be a tough one, though. Brazil, not so much. They've been really bad at Singapore. Qatar, maybe Qatar, maybe Abu Dhabi, but by then it's way too late. So McLaren. So
Belgium, the next one is that one where he's had some success, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Belgium's a driver's track, but again, Red Bull's really touchy. The McLaren has a much wider operating window, and Piastri and Norris have been better able to manage their car within that. So I think they're still going to hold the edge at Belgium regardless. Maybe Max can get the pole, and if he leads into turn 1, Belgium can be a pretty hard place to pass. So it might come down to strategy for McLaren to get the win there. But again, to do that, Max has got to be perfect on Saturday and put it on pole.
Well, it is interesting because, I mean, I remember looking at the odds before qualifying, and Max was 10-1. 10-1. And then he goes out, and even though he didn't win, I don't remember what the odds were after qualifying, but it was just a sign that, hey, there might be some races to take advantage of Max. if they're going to give him, if they're going to give you these odds like this.
Sure.
We'll just have to figure out a way to pick those spots. Okay, so the NASCAR championship, and no, we're not going to talk about they actually even have the name of like the coverage now saying challenge, whatever the heck. They're really just going all out on that stuff. And how many more races before we're in? What are we in? How many more drivers left in that thing?
We are in the quarterfinals this week,
there's
semis, and then final.
Okay, so let's see. All right, so there's only 8 drivers left?
Yes.
Okay. So here are the drivers that are left if you want to look at it. And
one thing that I do like,
Ty Dillon.
Exactly. So one thing I like about this is that because of the fact that we've had such crazy races, first of all, with Atlanta, with so many top cars getting knocked out, and then you go to a road course, look at the names that are in there. I mean, to get $1 million, that'd be great. Hunter Nemechek, Jones, Smith, Dillon, any of those guys walking away with $1 million check is going to be a big boost to their season.
Yeah, we'll have to pop that up just to see so they call it. So it's the NASCAR Challenge,
NASCAR in-season challenge, I believe.
Bracket. Okay. Let's see. I hate the NASCAR website. It's terrible.
It's not good.
All right. Let's see if what they see. I mean, come on. We're going to shrink this. All right. So Dillon is going up against Bowman. What am I looking at?
It's that gives you no ability to see the actual bracket.
All right. So Bowman and Dillon, Nemechek and Jones. So Bowman, Dillon. So Bowman's okay. I can see why he's in good shape. Nemechek, okay. Priest and Reddick. That could be an upset.
Yeah.
Priest and Reddick. Zane, Smith, and Gibbs. Okay.
That's so Priest versus Reddick, Gibbs versus Smith, Nemechek versus Jones. That's interesting because 42 versus 43 there, and then Dillon versus Bowman.
And who's who again? I can't figure. Oh, right, I see it now. Okay, so if I can put it on my big screen, so if Bowman beats Dillon, he'll go up against Nemechek, Jones.
Yep.
And that's at Dover. Is Jones any good at Dover that you can recall?
Probably back in the Joe Gibbs days.
Priest, Reddick. Okay. Well, hey, I guess it's probably not a bad idea to take like a Priest, a Jones, or a Zane Smith, to tell you the truth. Just if you want to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's the championship odds. So not a whole lot's changed. Blaney's at 6. I still don't think those are bad odds at this point. I don't think you're going to get much better. Same thing with Byron, especially now that he's going through a little bit of a slump. Elliott's still getting really good odds at 9. And then everybody else is, I guess you just have to decide for yourself. Anybody back here in the 20s, Briscoe, Chastain, I still think Bowman, because he's starting to come on again at 25. Buscher's at 35. Kyle's at 50. You know, even Gibbs now at 50, the way he's racing. Who would you go with? Who would you throw a couple of bucks on for some of these long shots?
Where was Buscher?
Buscher's 35.
Yeah, I'd probably go with Buscher. He has a tendency to be good on some tracks. He's been pretty competitive and consistent. So just a slight change and he might be up there as well.
Okay. Before we check out the odds for the race, let's talk about what took place last week. And once again, I guess we didn't really expect it. We keep expecting the cautions to come out for super speedways, but we wound up getting one that may not have meant anything, but it could have for this reason. And that is the fact that all you needed to no, look, this is not about us thinking that anybody was catching SVG if they let it run. It was about if you put the caution out when it should have been, we have a restart. And then you've got Gibbs right next to SVG needing the win to go to the playoffs. So you know he's going to just do what he needs to do. And you got Reddick, who's got fresher tires, who's just, he's not going to care either. So it would have been a really exciting thing to do. And yet they did the opposite.
I feel like we were completely robbed of what could have been a fantastic finish. And I read finally the explanation as to why they said
there was an explanation to it.
Yeah,
Because it was going to rain soon.
Of course, there's an explanation. So they wanted to give, I think it was Cody Ware that went in.
Yeah, that's all they always say.
So they wanted to give him the opportunity to get back. They didn't see him going into the wall at about 100 miles an hour, though, and see that there was no way that car was going to move. He went in so hard. They just said they didn't see it. So if they ever go back to Chicago, they will relook at how they do that and revisit their ability to be able to review those things. But if you're watching at home, it felt like, I think it would have been consistent at this point, throwing away what happened at Daytona. But I think it would have been consistent from NASCAR at this point in the season to have thrown the caution at that point. It was a crash on a road course. I get it. You can have a local yellow, but you watching it on TV, you just knew that there were cars coming through. They should have thrown the yellow. They admitted they should have thrown the yellow and would have thrown the yellow, but they didn't. They waited, and it happened to be that SVG got across the finish line and took the white flag, and then they ended up throwing it. But I thought earlier in the race when SVG passed Gibbs, I was disappointed in Gibbs because I thought Gibbs allowed him too much room. I think Gibbs could have been, same way you were critical with Haley, I'm critical of Gibbs when he let SVG by before we got to the end. So I was hoping that there would be a restart so that we could see Gibbs get a little bit more tenacity and get a little bit more pushy.
Which he's known to do.
Which he is very much known to do. SVG might well have smoked him off of the last corner coming to the flag, but at least we would have had a chance. And unfortunately, we didn't. And NASCAR, again, they said had they seen the right angle, had they seen the crash would have happened, they would have done it. But as it was,
wake up.
We got.
This is an entertainment industry. That's what this is. It's entertainment. So what you need to do is understand everything. Have your head on right as the laps are coming to an end. You have to be prepared for these things. You have to put all these different scenarios in your head. And then this way, when something happens, you can make a quick decision because you've already got a scenario. What happens if somebody spins out here with a lap or two to go, and I have to make a quick decision. Okay, who's in first? What's the situation? Because what I would have done is I would have said, well, you know what? SVG's already into the playoffs. I'm going to, and this race, hasn't really been all that exciting. Okay, if something happens, I'm pulling the caution. Now, SVG not in the playoffs, then I'm saying to myself, maybe I'll let it go because it really might not have been fair. He's the best driver. I'll let it go. But come up with the reasoning of why you need to entertain and also be fair. Because again, SVG doesn't need a second win. He's already in. There's nothing for him. Absolutely nothing. And again, give it to the fans too. That's what they pay for. I mean, it's sitting out there in terrible conditions, basically, and you don't give them a reason to want to come back. Why would you want to come back when they just did that to you? Yeah, I wouldn't. If I was there for the first time and they did that to me, I'm not coming back here.
Yeah, I can see it for sure. I was very disappointed. For me, if there's a spin, it's a road course, give them the opportunity to right it. This was a clear-cut crash. I mean, this was contact heavy into the tires, moved the tires, probably moved the wall, and they just let it go. It was it was shocking, to be honest with you. But then again, we've seen this now. I will say this is the third time that I can think of this season so far the NASCAR has done it, because they did it at Daytona, they did it the week after at Atlanta, and here I think it's come again. I can't remember anyone so blatant in between Atlanta and Chicago, but this is number 3 for 2025.
Okay. Let's take a look at the odds now for this week's race. Another road course.
So he was what, -1, or I'm sorry, plus 135 last week?
Plus 135. He was 2-1, but he ended up actually like close to even.
Okay.
So what do you think he is going to be?
Close to even. Plus 150. Oh, I was off.
We're getting to the point now where if he wins another race, you're going to be hoping that you got plus 130.
This is true.
The next road course. But, and we talked about this last week, looking ahead to this race. This is the race better than last week. This is what we said last week, that Sonoma was going to be the better race to bet against Shane Van Gisbergen, because he hasn't raced here before in a Cup Series, in a Cup car, and because of the fact that of what you said regarding the difference between the street race version and this particular road course, which is definitely going to be a little bit more of an issue for him than, say, Mexico was.
Yeah. Sonoma is a much narrower course, a lot more elevation change, and not to say that he's not used to racing on narrow courses with a lot of elevation change, because you look at Mount Panorama in Australia, that's notorious for both of those things, and he's done great things there as well. So it could work in his favor, it could absolutely work against him this week. So we shall see. I think as well, though, this is a different track. It's not like Mexico. It's not like Chicago. I do think this is a good opportunity for the Cup regulars that really know this track. They go to this track every single year and have been their entire lives. I think this is a chance they can really bring the fight to him.
Yeah, that's why I think that this is the week where if you're going to make a move regarding deciding to wager on other drivers, let's say that you were all in on SVG anyway, but let's say that you were kind of 50-50. That's why I wanted to bring it up last week, because last week we were basically saying, hey, even if you don't bet straight, there was some good, I even said this on Saturday, if you want to do some, some parlay wagering, go with SVG, but then maybe go in another direction or two with some other sporting events that you like. So if SVG wins, you've got that. And I actually almost had that, because I explained to everybody that I had taken 3 golfers on my parlay with SVG. One of them actually went all the way to the playoff and lost. If he had won, then on a $2 bet, I would have had $1,000 on Tommy Fleetwood to win the Open Championship in 2 weeks. $2 bet with SVG at plus 150, whatever he was at there. So that's how close I came to it. And that's why I think that's the way to go when you're looking at, especially now. Look, I won't say that in what's the next road course after this?
Watkins Glen.
Okay. I won't say that for Watkins Glen. If he winds up winning this race, problem is, like I said, I don't know if you're going to get a plus. You might start off at minus 150 if he wins this race at Watkins Glen, and then all of a sudden forget it. No way am I putting up minus 150 in a NASCAR race. That ain't happening. So that's the thing. It's a tricky spot we're in. All right. Who do you think is next?
Well, Kyle Larson won last year. So I guess probably him. Yep. I was going to say +5. Yep.
Okay. Who do you think is, so this one might be a little bit more tricky.
I think it should be Chris Buescher.
Wow. Chris Buescher, the third choice.
He's been consistent top 10s. He wasn't last week at Chicago, but consistent top 10s at road courses. And by the way, he led 32 laps in this race last year. Probably Tyler Reddick's going to be third, though.
That sounds more likely.
Ty Gibbs, how about that?
Look at the spread, though.
Significant. Double.
Look at that.
And McDowell.
We've lost all value on Michael McDowell. See, this is exactly what we were talking about, too, in these situations like last week, where let's just say the roles have been reversed and SVG had dominated early and led all those laps and then had an issue with whatever it was that happens. Because McDowell, I mean, see, this is the thing that really ruins it for us as fans of wanting to watch entertainment, is that McDowell clearly, we said it last week, was the value of every driver at 22-1, gets up there in second to start the race, takes over the lead at the get-go, and leads all the laps. Now, question. We talked about how it didn't work for Ty Gibbs in Mexico with the strategy. And I think that was more of luck, but whatever. McDowell and these guys, they clearly have the best car with SVG. They've just proved it. They can go head to head with SVG in this. Why did they make the decision to kind of do things a little bit different as far as staying out like they did? Was that the right call? Or was that overthinking things? And do you think that had a lot to do with the fact that something broke down?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I think there's an old adage where if you think you cannot beat in racing, if you think you can't beat somebody, just do the opposite. Let them beat themselves. And I think probably with him and Trackhouse being so good at Chicago, maybe some of that started to creep in. So you start to do the opposite, get yourself off of the sequence that they're on because you can't necessarily beat them head to head. I don't think we got to see that, though. McDowell had a fantastic start, went out and led the laps. Who would have known, on fresher tires with Shane coming on, if he would have been able to track him down and ultimately end up beating McDowell. But you never know. Trackhouse could have very easily made a mistake on pit road, could have been a slow tire change, could have been getting the fuel can connected, any of those things, and it would have given McDowell the advantage that he needed to be able to just stretch his legs. We never got that because he ended up having the throttle cable issue. But I think that's going to be something to watch here in Sonoma. Strategy at road courses has been very important. And last year, the guy who had the freshest tires, who pitted last, was the one that ended up winning, and he carved his way through the field to do so, and that was Kyle Larson. So
he did the same thing that Bell did at Coda earlier this year.
Exactly right. And Bell did that at Coda. So keep that in mind for Sunday when you're calling strategy, and if you're betting real time or whatever. Generally speaking, you're going to want the freshest tires with the most grip. If you've got a fast car, you've got to have a fast car, obviously, but you want the most grip at the end of the race to be able to take the fight to these guys. And watch people trying to do the overcut this time at Sonoma. This is a track, again, where these guys go here every single year and have been their entire lives. This is only going to be SVG's, well, it'll be his first cup race, but he raced in the Xfinity Series, won that race last year. So he's got a little bit of track experience, but I think it's going to be a much more even playing field this week. He's still going to be great. He's still going to probably be better than the rest.
Yeah.
It should be closer than Mexico and Chicago.
This is like if anybody out there watching is into hockey, this is why whenever you hear things like if you've got a really great goaltender, maybe this applies to soccer too, doubtful. They don't get the type of impact as hockey goalies get. But in hockey, if your goalie is hot and maybe you're in a series and you just am having really a hard time, this guy's just stopping everything. What you hear them say is all of a sudden the shooters start to overthink it and they start trying to do things that they don't normally do because they can't figure out how to get pucks past the goalie. Well, this is exactly what has gone on the last two races. We talked about it in Mexico. Gibbs clearly proved early in that race that he was just as good as SVG, or at least close enough where anything could happen, and then decided to do something different. McDowell, the same thing, and it failed. Both of them failed. What if both of them had just played the race out and just let's see what happens? Who knows? So this is what I would hope that maybe the problem is it's because it is Gibbs, it is McDowell. These guys aren't their teams. Maybe they're just not that smart yet. You know, they're not championship teams. They haven't even won. I mean, Gibbs hasn't even won a damn race yet in the Cup Series. McDowell has what, one or two?
He's got it. Yeah, he's got a couple.
Yeah.
Gibbs, I'd give more of a pass to McDowell. Gibbs is coming from Joe Gibbs Racing. I think they've got
That's true.
Be able to get an experienced shot caller, whatever, strategist, etc., at every position around his team. So I think there's definitely something to be said for that, getting in their heads. Also the difference is SVG's got a race win, whereas Gibbs and McDowell don't. So when you're looking at somebody as dominant as SVG, typically, again, you're going to fall to that old adage of going and doing something a little bit different to be able to hopefully, you know, whether it's draw out a mistake or at least take advantage of a mistake. If the number 88, Shane had made one, ultimately never happened.
I think they should be smart enough now to just say to themselves, hey, if we have a fast car, if it looks early in the race, if it looks like we can keep up with them, then just go. Let's go for it. Go mano a mano. Let's see what you can do. Not enough of these stupid mind games because it's not working. So, okay. Let's see where we got. Oh, before we move on. So just again, with these odds here, with these drivers, I don't think this is a good week to take Larson at all. He'd have to win back-to-back races at Sonoma. He is now in a situation overall in his last 7 races where his average finish is 17.5. So he is not anywhere near the peak he was a couple of months ago. And get this, he has an average start. He's got the 2 wins in 10 races, 5 poles.
Consecutive.
And an average start of 3.8 in his career. His average finish, 13th. I'm sorry, but I'm not taking drivers very often when their average start, their average finish is worse than their average start. That's not, you want the opposite. And Larson's not going well right now, and he's 5-1. So on top of all that, no way. I want nothing to do with Carl Larson at 5-1. Gibbs is an obvious. It's almost so obvious now. I'm really shocked he's 11-1. There's going to be so many people betting on Gibbs this week, and in those situations, I think he's in trouble because again, I just think it's just so obvious. I mean, of course he's got to be one of the top contenders this week, and he just finished second. What did you think was going to happen last week? And now the same thing I think is going to be happening this week. And if you look at Gibbs overall, he doesn't have anything to show for it in his 2 cup races. But he did start 10th and 6th in the first two seasons. And in the Xfinity Series, he led 26 laps in last year's race in which Shane Van Gisbergen won. But he crashed in the race. SVG wins. And then he was 4th in 2023 in the Xfinity. So we know Gibbs can drive road courses. And in his last 5 races, he's got an 8.8 average finish. So that's why I'm getting double the money on Gibbs, who's clearly hot. Larson is not. I'm definitely going Gibbs over Larson. And again, like we said with McDowell, we've just lost all the value now because now we've got to take a driver. It's not that it's what we saw with the equipment. It's like, this is what we're wagering on is that we're wagering, I guess, on. Yeah. If we take him as that's the team, that's the equipment. We don't know if it's going to hold up. We don't know if they're going to overthink things. But I guess still at 11-1, based on his numbers here, you still have to go with him because he's been so strong here in his last 3 appearances.
Yeah, the other thing about Larson is that Sonoma doesn't often produce back-to-back winners, and we've talked about it with every driver who has won this season and then who also won last year. To sweep races at a track or go back-to-back wins at the same track is tough to do. It's really hard to do at Sonoma. Obviously, Truex did it. He was a great road racer 2018, 2019. But prior to him doing that back then, The last person to do that was Jeff Gordon all the way back in 1998, 99, and 2000. So that just kind of tells you a little bit about the competitiveness of Sonoma and how these drivers have gotten better at this track the more times that they come to it. Truex, Gordon certainly stand out as road course racers. We've got several great road course racers now in this series. So definitely one to watch. I think Larson at that price probably, in comparison with somebody like a Gibbs, I would absolutely take Gibbs. Remember, Gibbs last year was fast. He qualified 10th. He ended up making a mistake. I think he clipped the inside turn, maybe on turn 11, and then went into the wall maybe at 1, somewhere around the start finish area before you go up the hill. So it was kind of a boneheaded mistake on his part. I think without a mistake this year, I think he'll probably be top 5, if not fighting for a win.
And we'll be on the air on Saturday at about 4 o'clock. That's when I should be recording the qualifying report. So it should be available around 4:30-ish on Saturday. Keep this in mind. There have been 35 races at Sonoma. Only 2 of the 35, 2 started outside the top 14. That's it. And it happened at back-to-back years. 2007 and 2008, Juan Pablo Montoya, Kyle Busch, 2 of the best road course drivers of their era. And they came back from 30th and 32nd. So if you start outside the top 14, when we talk on Saturday, curtains. The last 6 winners all started in the top 8. And the NextGen winners have all started, obviously, in the top 8, including 5th. Manufacturer-wise, even though Ford has not won in the last 6, they did finish 2nd and 3rd last year and won both sessions on Saturday. So because of that, I think the manufacturer situation is pretty mixed up. I wouldn't take a driver or not take a driver because he's driving a certain make this week. Okay, let's go to the next group. There's your Busher. Now, Byron's another one that is going through a really bad spell right now. No way am I touching William Byron at this point. He's got an average of 28.2 in his last 5 races. Of course, he had all sorts of bad luck when things got started on Sunday, and he's never had any success here. So 1 top 10, that's it. So forget William Byron. The other 3 are interesting. You mentioned Busher. Busher has finished in the top 4 in the last 3 at Sonoma. He led, like you mentioned, he led 32 last year from 26th. And he's finished in the top 10 twice on the road courses. And again, Chicago's a street race, so he does have 2 top 10s on 2 road course races. It was 22-1 last week. That's been what you've been getting, sort of like McDowell. The value's gone, but it's still double digits. Reddick is interesting now because of one major thing. He's got his mojo back. Back-to-back top 5s. And we know he's really good on road courses, including 8th last year, leading 35 laps from 2nd. He also started 2nd in 2023 and 5th in 2022, except his finishes were not good. Matter of fact, his average starting position in 4 races, Cup races at Pocono, is 4.8. Sonoma is 4.8. His average finish is 23.8. So that would worry me, but you're getting 14-1 on Reddick on a road course, and that's pretty good, especially since he's got back-to-back top 5s, and especially because in his 3 races here, he started in the top 5, all 3 races, so he's putting himself in position. Now he's kind of feeling good about himself, so I think Reddick's even in the game, and Elliott continues to be a bargain number at 14-1, and he's probably a better bet this week anyway than last week because he had won the week before. So it's a little easier and it was a street race. Here, he's come to a track that lately, matter of fact, his last 4 races have all finished in the top 10, including 4th last year. And he has 4 top 5s and a runner-up in 8 career races at Sonoma. So, yeah, I mean, you got 3 live little mini long shots, if you want to call them, in Buescher, Elliott, and Reddick.
For sure. I'm surprised that Byron is in this group, let alone ahead of the other three, to be honest with you. His record at Sonoma is just not good. He's qualified better than he's finished. He's won top 10, and that was back in 2022, and he finished ninth. And like you said, is on the worst stretch of his season so far. So very much in a slump, coming to a place where he's not done great things. Chase Elliott, we talked about him being a great road course racer. We've been saying the past few road courses that now with this next gen car, his mojo went away, but he seems to be getting it back again. And I think that you can see that in his results at Sonoma. Since the next gen car has come, he's been 8th, 5th, and 4th last year. He's led laps in all of those races. So it seems like he's getting it back. He just has never won at Sonoma before, but I'd be willing to take Chase Elliott regardless of that this week because I think he can get it done. Tyler Reddick, I think, is very interesting because he qualified on the front row the last 2 times. And by the way, last year, along with Chris Buescher, Tyler Reddick led 35 laps, and he and Buescher had the most laps led, I think, in that race, if I'm not mistaken. And then that just sets up Buescher, who finished 3rd, led 32 laps last year in this race, but he started 26th. And we've been seeing him like clockwork score top 10s on road courses. And by the way, he's the one that went head to head with SVG at Watkins Glen and forced SVG into a mistake and ended up getting by and taking the win in that race last year. So Chris Buescher, if given the opportunity, can get it done. He can definitely get it done at Sonoma, a place where he's finished 2nd, 4th, and 3rd the last 3 races. So Chris Buescher is my top choice here. Elliott and Reddick I'd probably put together, maybe give Elliott the edge, though Reddick with his hotness right now, great run of form the past 2 races. Byron shouldn't even be in the conversation.
Yeah, and you know what? Elliott is probably a good, if you're thinking of taking Elliott to win the championship, you might want to do it now because he's got 9-1. If he wins again, I think those odds are going to he might turn out to be the second choice right behind Larson if he wins again. So I think you've got a shot now to take advantage of it. Plus you're getting 14-1 if you want to do that here too. Okay. Next up. All right. So now we still have some other, and see, this is part of the good thing about having SVG in the race with him being an even money favorite. Is that if he doesn't win, most of the other drivers are getting pretty decent odds, better than they normally would. We've already gone through some. So Bell's not one of them, though. Bell has not done anything here. I mean, yeah, he's got a couple top 10s, but he's never led a lap. And in his last 3 races coming in here, he's got an average of 23.6. So he's not in a rhythm. And he hasn't done anything here. So I know he's a good road course driver, but no, I'm not interested. It wasn't like he dominated COTA. It wasn't like he dominated Mexico, finishing 2nd. So no, not interested. I got other drivers at 14-1 that we just went over. They're a lot better options in my mind. AJ, we haven't talked a whole lot yet about this year on the road courses, but I think this is as good as time as any to maybe say maybe this is a good week. AJ's got a decent history here, including 6th place finishes the last 2 years. He's coming off a 6th place finish last week, and you're getting pretty good odds at 18-1. We know he can win road course races. He was also 2nd a couple years ago in the Xfinity race here. Chastain and Busch at 22-1. Now, Chastain has got the thing we talked about where you want to finish better than you started. Well, Chastain has an average starting position of 19.4 here in 5 races. His average finish is 12.4 with 4 top 10s out of 5. 1 top 5. Hasn't led many laps at all, just 1, so really nothing. But he's always in the top 10 here. And so I think he's really dangerous if he qualifies in the top 5, which he's never done. He's coming off a 10th place finish last week. He's been 16th or better in all 3 of these road course street races this year, and you're getting a big 22-1. He's not my top choice as far as these long shots, but hey, if you want to take him, I have nothing against that. And Kyle Busch, considering he finished fifth last week, was a really big result for him that I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt again at 22-1. Now get this. He started in just RCR, the last two with RCR only. He started 29th last year, finished 12th. That's 17 spot improvement. 2023, he started 12th, finished second, led 17 laps. That's a 10 spot improvement. So watch out if Kyle Busch qualifies in the top 10 on Saturday. He's got 2 wins in his career at this track, 7 top 5s in his career at this track. But just recently, RCR, he's proving that he can do well here. He's got 5th place finishes in 2 of the 3 road course street races this year. And you're getting a big number. And you know that if he is up there and in contention for a win, just talked about it with Gibbs or Haley, you know for sure if Kyle Busch gets a chance to win a race in the last 5 laps or so, and he don't care who's next to him, especially, if SVG, it don't matter. If he feels he's got a winning car, not like with the Bell situation. He knew he didn't have a winning car. He knew Bell was fresher. He didn't have enough laps. He wasn't going to do anything. But if he feels he has a winning car and SVG, say, is right there, or let's say SVG's in front of him, and he's right on his rear, SVG ain't surviving. That's all I'm going to say.
Kyle Busch is definitely hungry for a win, and this might be a place. Hopefully, he could break that drought. I absolutely agree with you. Obviously, the 2 career wins. He's always been quick at this track, and as you mentioned, since joining RCR, he even has a runner-up finish. That was in 2023. I want to say he was poised for a top 10 last year, even from the 29th spot, but I think he ended up getting caught up in some other issue at the end or toward the end that made him lose some spaces. So I want to say Busch's 12th place finish last year could have been a top 10 and should have been a top 10. Somebody check me on that if you would. Go ahead and put it in the comments. But Ross Chastain, exceptional here. Can you imagine what his 12.4 average finish would be if he didn't have that first race where he started 37th and finished 33rd? Just throw that out the window, and you're talking something less than 10. 7th, 7th, 10th, and 5th in his last 4 tries here. This is a track that he gets, and I like Ross Chastain here a lot. I also like AJ Allmendinger. It was really good to see him be competitive last week at Chicago. Hopefully that gives him something to go on this week and be competitive again. And then actually, just to go back to the thought on Ross Chastain, he's also SVG's teammate, and we saw Chastain, I think, do better than expected at Chicago last week too. So maybe some of that knowledge transfer is wearing off over onto the number 1 machine for Chastain. So anybody but Bell here, I would say. I would agree with you. I'd probably put it's tough to put a difference between Chastain and Allmendinger. Those probably Chastain. I'd say Chastain, just from a gut feel perspective. I would put him top of the other 2.
And the other thing that is better this week than last week is, especially since it's a street race, is that the options are much better here this week, much better. So look, if SVG was coming into Sonoma and he was just the dominant driver, like he looked like either at Mexico or Chicago coming in, it'd be different. But we don't know. It's a mystery of what he's going to do on Sunday. Nobody knows. We can guess. We could say more than likely, but we really don't know. And that mystery thrown in with the fact that all these other veteran drivers, as CJ has mentioned several times here, knows what they're doing at this track and have been successful here, and you're getting really good odds. I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean, if SVG is going to beat you this week, then just basically let him beat you is what I'm going to say. If he beat you, and that's it. And I lost, nothing I could do about it, but I am going to make sure that I'm going to take about 5 nice double-digit long shots and see if I can beat him. Because I think this is as good as a week as you're going to get in a road course to beat them all season in my mind. Okay. Next up, start to get to the big ones. And out of this group, I think the obvious one is Bowman, even though he doesn't have any great results here under NextGen, no top 10s, all top 20s, but he's got all top 10s on the road street races. That's a good sign. 8th last week. And he's got a 6.5 average in his last 4 races. So he's got his groove going again. 3rd, 11th, 4th, and 8th. And you're getting a big number at 28-1. Briscoe has nothing here, like most tracks. Again, he's got a new team and all that. He did lead the 13 laps last week, but that was just out of sequence. And Logano should never have been 90-1 last week. Now you're getting back to where he should be at 45-1. Blaney at 25-1. So his odds are down a little. And again, keep in mind, last year, Logano was on the pole and Blaney was fastest in practice. The other interesting thing is, I think it was McDowell and Buescher were the drivers who finished 2nd and 3rd. So those were your 4-4 drivers. So they're all different. So again, that's why I say, even though Ford doesn't show anything here, maybe they're getting close. Maybe last year was a sign that they're that close to coming off and actually having a good week at Sonoma. So keep that in mind.
I would probably put Logano top of this group. It's tough with Bowman in there because I think Bowman's got a lot of potential at Sonoma, driving a Hendrick Chevrolet. Obviously, Larson's very good. Elliott's very good. Bowman's won on road course as well, or street course as well. But Logano last year started on pole. He was caught up in a crash, a relatively early crash. He led 16 laps up until that point and ended up finishing 21st. He ended up getting stage points in the second stage. So he fought back from that, but just basically didn't have the afternoon that a pole sitter probably would have been hoping for with that crash. And the year before, in 2023, he started 17th, so he didn't qualify very well. We probably didn't talk much about him, but he ended up driving all the way up to the 3rd place finishing spot. So that's 2 really good races, minus some bad luck last year for Logano, which I think maybe gives him the nose for me versus a Bowman. Briscoe's done nothing here. I would avoid him. And Blaney, I think the same is true at most races, road courses. When we talk about Ryan Blaney, he can be a consistent, solid top 10 type of guy. And I think he's shown that here at Sonoma as well, but he's not the one that's going to be out there leading the laps, dominating the competition, really taking the fight to somebody like SVG. So Ryan Blaney, from a fantasy perspective, I think he's a pretty solid top 10 choice, regardless probably of where he qualifies. If he qualifies outside of the top 20, don't take him. But if he's somewhere inside the top 20, I think he's probably capable of a top 10, regardless of where he starts. But for me, I'd go Logano, Bowman, Blaney, then Briscoe.
Yeah, Blaney has 4 top 10s in his last 5 at Sonoma. This is, I know he won at Charlotte, but this might be his best statistical road course. So, and yeah, if you're looking for some deep long shots, I think 3 out of the 4 are not bad options. Okay, and then we move over to some of the others. Not many more left. Suarez, who knows what's going on in his head. Hocevar is just, he's showing you that he's just not ready yet, especially on a road course. He doesn't have the patience. Hamlin.
Self-imposed mistake last week. He cut the turn way too close and ended up creating that Chicago traffic jam.
And he finished, and he started strong again. And it looked like, he had some good speed there, but he's just not a road course, not right now. So he just needs more experience on road courses. That's all. It's going to come. Hamlin, who was a nice long shot pick, I thought last week, and then he just basically can't even start the car on Saturday. Gets into a backup car and winds up finishing in the top 5. So it actually did work out fantasy-wise. But I actually think Hamlin is not a bad long shot again, because he has 4 career top 5s here. In his last 5 races this year, 4 of them are in the top 5 with a 1st and a 2nd. He's coming off the 4th place finish last week. And if you look at it here, he's had some really bad finishes here in NextGen, like really bad. But he was on the pole in 2023, leading 33 laps before he was involved in a wreck. And the main thing to keep in mind is, in his last 5 at Sonoma, his starting position. Now, last year, he started 25th, but he had engine problems in the race. Might have something to do with why he started 25th. The other 4 starts, 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 6th. So he seems to be starting well, and that's important as we talked about before here at Sonoma. So I don't think he's the worst long shot at all when you're getting 65-1 on Denny Hamlin. And Austin Cindric just seems to be in some sort of a fog in the road courses this year.
Really disappointed with Cindric on the road courses, and disappointed with Cindric at Sonoma as well. Started off really strongly with his first race here, qualified 25th, ended up racing all the way to the 5th position. That's what I would expect from Cindric, given what he's been capable of on these types of tracks. But since then, he's done nothing. Qualified outside of the top 25 the next 2 times, finished outside of the top 20 both of those times as well. Really hasn't made an impression. Maybe he can turn it around this week. We'll see. He's definitely got the teammates that are able to do it, and he's definitely got the skills to be able to do it. It's just a matter of him being able to bring those out and put them to bear. Daniel Suarez won here, but again, like you said, what's going on in his head, that was really an anomaly compared to the rest of his starts. He hadn't finished better than 12th prior to then or since then at Sonoma. So, qualifies well inside the top 10, inside the top 15 on a regular basis. Maybe that's where he'll be again. But again, losing his ride, saying goodbye to Trackhouse Racing for 2026, and focusing maybe a little bit on what he's going to do next year. Plus, track that hasn't, aside from that win, been all that great to him. Just a lot of question marks around him this week, which brings us to Denny Hamlin. Who I think is on the best run of any driver right now. Just he took the week off Mexico, so we don't know what he would have been there. Gave him, the grace period of a week of not taking him to see what he was going to be able to do after taking that week off, having a life change with the new child, coming back, etc. And he's really hit the ground running, and I think that's going to continue. I think Hamlin's at the top of his game right now. It would not surprise me to see him battling amongst the top 5, if not potentially going for the win if things go his way. Like you said, he crashed out in 2023 despite starting on the pole and led 33 laps. He can definitely get it done here.
Yeah, I don't understand what he's doing at 65-1.
It
just doesn't make any sense. So take advantage of that. Keep in mind, Cindric has a starting average position of 29th. So if he qualifies and practices well on Saturday, that's completely different. We'll talk about it. The odds are big enough that you should still get good numbers on him because he's 80-1. So he's definitely somebody to wait and see if he does anything on Saturday. As far as the rest, I think you could see actually even right there. Let's just stop right there with the first one being Ryan Preece. I think he's the only other driver that I'd be like, okay, why not? I know he doesn't have a lot of success on road courses, but that's pre-RFK. 7th last week, 12.2 average in his last 8 races on the season with 5 top 10s. So there's a lot to like there. I don't think he's going to win. I'd much rather take Denny Hamlin and even Logano and so forth. But he's 80-1. Things are going nice for him. And you never know because it's a road course. Anything can happen. So I think Preece is the only other one. Here are the rest. I don't know if any of these other drivers stick out for you.
No, Preece, I think, is worth a look at as well, just because he's been pretty good at the last 2 road courses. Finished 15th in Mexico City, which you recall was a rainy and dry one. So that was a tough race to be able to do anything well at, and he got a top 15. So good for him. And then the same thing, Chicago actually was really impressive. Started 7th and finished 7th. I didn't expect to see him in the top 10, certainly from qualifying, let alone the race. And he did both. So I think Preece is really living up to the opportunity that he has with RFK Racing, being right on the cusp of being able to make it into the playoffs. So I think we'll see a consistent execution from him this week, and could be another top 15, top 10 kind of day from him.
Yeah, we'll have to maybe even take a look at the playoff standings again. I know it's I hate to have to take a look at it on NASCAR.com, but
Preece is 2 points behind Bubba Wallace in the last playoff position. Bubba's got 443 points. Preece is 17th and with 441.
So this is it right here then, right?
That's it. Yep.
Okay. So there you go. Preece neck and neck. We still have a long way to go.
Yes.
And Kyle and AJ, I mean, Kyle is the one that really, I mean, Gibbs, do we have a long enough time period for Gibbs to get in without winning?
No, I think Gibbs is in a must-win situation at this point.
All right. So there you go. That's how it looks. Even Reddick hasn't won yet this year, but he's the one that is the most comfortably in. Okay, so I go first.
Yeah, yes, you do. Yep.
Okay. So I guess I'm just going to go with the obvious one, which is probably stupid. But look, I've been taking them lately, and why not just keep taking them? It's not like I'm a newbie, so I'm taking Ty Gibbs.
That would have been my top choice, so I will go ahead and take Busher.
Okay. Yeah, Kevin, by the way, you can check out Kevin's picks. His video comes out usually between Friday and race day. And Kevin actually took, I think it might have been his second straight week where he took the same driver that I did. And I had to warn him. I said, can't do that, Kevin, because we have no chance now. I know you're new to this, but I've been doing this for a long time. And when you get 2 or 3 guys that are doing a show and analyzing, and then you get your picks, if you got the same driver, it ain't happening. It's not going to work because there's too many other drivers to choose from. And if you both got the same idea, that means a lot of other people have got that idea, which we've already talked about. You like them, I like them. So that's why I said at the very beginning, I don't have a good, I like him this week, obviously, is the obvious pick, but I think it's almost too obvious. All right, because too obvious does not work most of the time. I will go with, I'll go ahead and take Reddick.
I'll go Allmendinger.
Okay, AJ. And AJ's in a pretty decent spot. He's actually had a halfway decent season. I know you'd like to see a little bit better, but for the most part, 18th, I mean, he's right there.
18th in the standings, 43 points behind Wallace. He's one.
Is that enough? Can he get in without a win?
It's tight, but I'd say Allmendinger probably is the cutoff line. He really could use.
But he's not the type of driver that's going to.
He's not going to. I
do
think
top 10s and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
he's got to win. All right, the final pick. So I got between Kyle Busch, Bowman, and Hamlin. I'll go ahead and take Kyle.
I will take Hamlin then. Can't pass up him at that number.
Okay, there you go. So that is what we think about the race coming up on Sunday. Are they starting? Oh, that's right. It's California.
It is. Let me check the time, see if we can.
It's probably going to be a regular 3 o'clock start then, I would guess.
3:30 start for the race.
3:30 start. So I wonder whether or not that means when we turn it on, I hope it's like it better be like out there on the track.
Yeah, exactly. Qualifying is at 2:40 on Saturday.
Yes. So that probably puts us at about 4 o'clock when I'll be recording the report, and then we'll have it ready to go at 4:30. That's why I can't do the live version because I have no idea. I can't predict. And if I do it, if I have to really know for sure everything's going to be ready, then I have to push it. And then I don't want to push it too far. But I don't know. Maybe one of these days we'll do a live report on Saturday. That's always possible. Most of our other stuff is live. Okay. So Dover, anything that we need to know for Dover next week?
1 mile concrete, high bank oval. Tire issues. And this is once a year, right? Once a year.
And not a good track. Not a fun track.
Not as bad as Texas, but it's also not my favorite.
Not as bad as Texas. That's not really saying much. But okay, well, Texas at least, is it possible because of the abrasion, as abrasive the track is, that could we have like a Texas situation where some of the cars might just start falling apart, and we don't know what's going to happen. Because that's the only thing that saved Texas, was that we had no idea who was going to survive.
Yeah, there are always tires issues at Dover. Just the banking, the speed, the concrete, really abrasive surface just makes it really, really tough. And in order to get grip and maximize grip, you try to push the tire pressures as low as possible, which ends up creating some significant wear. So could be a tactical race, could come down to tires. We'll have to see what the weather ends up looking like. Otherwise, I'm not disappointed that we only go here once a year. There are many tracks that I think are significantly worse, but again, not one of my favorites.
Do you have by the way, before I let you go, do you have any upset picks for the challenge? You've got Dylan Bowman, so I'm assuming you're going Bowman.
Gosh, at a road course. Yeah. Let me look at the bracket one more time here.
You got Dylan Bowman, Nemechek Jones, Priest Reddick, and Gibbs Smith.
I don't know what would be an upset between Nemechek and Jones. Probably neither.
Yeah,
I could see
Nemechek might actually be better in that circumstance. Awesome.
I think. I mean, Bowman, probably Nemechek. Priest and Reddick might be an interesting one to watch. You know, Reddick was really good, but Priest also, with his recent last week, capable of a top 10. Something happens to Reddick, Priest may be able to find his way through. Gibbs and Smith will be. I think if Gibbs doesn't make a mistake, I think this race should be his. I think he's the obvious choice next to SVG this week. He's up there for a reason, so I think it's going to be really hard to see Smith pull an upset unless something crazy happens to Gibbs.
For some silly reason, I'm looking at the my sports book, and for their matchups, they don't have like the matchups of the drivers in the challenge. I mean, how ridiculous! Now maybe they'll do it later in the week when somebody knocks on the door of the guy who sets the odds this week, and he goes, "Why don't you have matchups for the challenge, dumbass? Put them on, please."
I wonder if they're waiting for qualifying too.
I guess maybe. I mean, they have other drivers. They have other, like a Busher and Gibbs.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
Kyle Busch. I don't see anything here. Now, again, this is what Kevin does each week as well. He gives you a pick for the race, one pick. He gives you his best driver versus driver matchups each week. And by the way, winning manufacturer this week may not be a bad one because, look, Chevy they're going to do because it's SVG on top of Chevy's got some other good drivers. I get why they're minus 300. But that means you're actually getting 7-1 on all the Fords, which is not that bad. But again, it's SVG, and I'm sure you can pick other things to wager on than going up against him at a road course. All right, so that is going to wrap it up. We'll talk about Dover next week. Don't forget, CJ, you've got your DFS best bets for RotoWire that'll be out on Friday, correct?
Correct. We will rotowire.com, and we'll put the link in the video here as well.
Yep. And I'll do that on Saturday. No F1 this week, no F1 next week. We'll talk about that in a few weeks. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on Saturday, and have